Welcome, and I wanted to capture the process of creating an episode of basically of Attention Earthlings with Commander Zor and Flux, the robot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you the finished episode right now.
This Earthling looks female. Sounds female, I guess. I don't know. This gender identification chart doesn't work anymore. It's broken. I can't classify these Earthlings using this.
Gender chart not working? How can a gender chart not work? Flux, you are using the 2016 version, aren't you?
Oh, 2016? No, Commander. Looks as though the use-by date on this chart has expired, back in 2012.
Well, that explains it, Flux. Genders on this planet have completely changed in the last 2 years. Gender is now a continuum of choice rather than a binary switch. A sliding scale. String theory taken to an illogical extreme. Here, Flux, this is the new 2016 Gender Identification Flipbook. As you would expect, male and female are still there for Earthlings existing in blind ignorance of their new gender choices, but there have been over 50 other additions. For example, transgender or gender dysphoria is here. These can be hard to spot, are usually nocturnal and quieter than many of the other gender categories within the bestiary. Transsexuals are the overt, loud and colourful versions of the transgender classification. Flux, if a subject is acting loudly or outrageously, it is generally safe to add them to this category.
Like bearing?
Yeah, that would be acceptable. Not really human though, more Homo ursus than Homo sapien. Bi-gender individuals, also classified as gender fluid, are shapeshifters who have the ability to morph between male and female at whim. A dangerous situation brought about when mutated estrogen and testosterone compete for dominance within the same organism. An androgyne is the unfortunate result of two people of different genders caught in a matter transfer accident. Nasty. Really nasty. Cisgender is somewhat of a catch-all category applied to social justice warriors who, against modern practice, still identify with their birth gender. Traditionally, they would have simply been classified as male or female, but those terms are no longer inclusive enough for the LGBT community. The trick to accurate identification here lies in reading what is on their t-shirts. Gender non-conforming are human cross-dressers. Gender questioning is usually reserved for art students, a largish and vocal subcategory. Transitioning are individuals undergoing the slow process of morphing from one gender to the other, like grubs in a cocoon turning into moths. A lot of unwanted body hair and lumps where they shouldn't be. It's all there, Flux, in the book. It's all there.
This gender book is broken as well. Look! See? What about me? It doesn't have a gender for robots.
It's at the back, Flux. You fall under the classification of industrial waste.
Oh.
Attention, Earthlings.
Yes, listen up, Earthlings.
It is vitally important
Vitally important. Go on, Commander. They're listening.
It is vitally important you subscribe.
Subscribe.
And then
Or else.
Flux, shut down or I'll scrap you. Subscribe and a like will help us get the message out and help save your puny planet.
Can I talk now? There we are. Okay, so hopefully I'll remember to come back in and put that in, otherwise it'll be fairly embarrassing. So what I'm going to do with in this episode, we're going to start basically the creative process, and really this is, I guess, the most important. Actually, it's not even the most important. I've got an idea, and it always starts with an idea. And so what I've done is all I want to have is, I was sort of looking online, and there was apparently instead of just having male and female genders now, there's like a whole plethora of different different genders. And I thought a visually funny way of sort of capturing that, like particularly for the two, like the alien and his robot, would be if Flux, the robot, is actually doing research and needs to identify who's male and who's female. And he's got like a card that sort of shows the basic outlines in silhouette of the characters. And look, and you guys have seen the finished result. I don't even know what it's going to be like yet. So this is completely blank screen. I just thought having like a thing where it's male and female, and then suddenly it no longer applies. So I'm going to need to use some of the footage of different sort of transgender people online and things like that as well, just so that he gets confused. So that's the basic premise. And then Commander Zor actually now gives him a full set with all of the different genders that have been specified in, I forget which report it is, but I'll have to look that up. And so we're just going to have all these different sort of silhouettes. And so the joke will essentially be the silhouettes. And it'll have, so for each of the different types, we'll end up going through, probably won't go through all of them. I think there's about 31 different types at the moment. Maybe what I'll do is try to classify them a little bit and just maybe sort of get like 12 or so of the actual sort of shapes and just go from there, and maybe sort of even capture, like sort of cluster them together so that we almost end up with, as I say, like a World War II flip book. But they used to use for ship silhouettes. If they were hunting ships in the Atlantic or Pacific, they would actually have the likely ships that they would be coming across, what their profile looked like, and a little bit of statistics on them. So I'm thinking that would be the funny bits to it. So anyway, this is using Scrivener, which is what I use to write the thing. It's a great little program, this, because it keeps everything compressed. So if I need instruction, like I always forget how to do the voices, for example, so I've got instructions on how to do the technicalities with that. So let's get started. Now the first thing I want to do is actually put in a number 8. Now at this point in time, I have fleshed out a few different ideas in through here, but haven't really done much with them. The ones with the green are finished, so I've only got 3 that are actually finished, and there's a few that I have finished that I want to come back and redo. So 1 and 2 I want to come back and redo. So let's just go up to Series 1, and I'm just going to go Control-T, Control-N, which gives me a new comic page. And in this case, I'm just going to call this one 08. So this is my 8th episode, even though it's my 4th one that'll probably actually be put up, maybe 5th. I might do the tattoo one before this one. I'm sort of halfway through that one at the moment. So 08, and this is going to be Gender Flipbook. I'm just going to call that my flip book. I'm just going to call that my working title at this point in time. And so what I tend to do here, like you can see it's got page and panel. This is from when I was doing comic strips, and so it's not really, I'm going to have to redesign or redo this portion of it just so that it actually comes up with stuff that I do need, because I don't need much, to be honest. But I'm sort of down, if you've used Scrivener before, you've got different sorts of ways of classifying things. It's fairly simple, but panel description is where I sort of start, which is just basic text. I've also then got character and their dialogue as well, which I tend to use a little bit, parenthetical as well if you're sort of doing stuff from off screen, so on and so forth. So there's I could use general text if I wanted to, but panel description tends to be what I sort of just do the fleshing out with. Now, to try to explain what it is, I tend to just write in a bit of a flow initially as to what I think will be happening, and there's really a few different parts to it. In fact, what I might just do is I might just bring open Clip Studio as well, which is where I do the storyboards. I'm just going to go and grab my storyboard. So this is my tattoo storyboards. I'm just going to turn that one off, do another one. This one's going to be called Gender Flipbook. And so what I tend to do is I tend to visually put in, I'm just going to grab my drawing tablet, make sure that that's all set up and ready to go. Okay, that's all fine. Just going to grab the pencil, give it like a grey colour. And so what I tend to do is just do little thumbnails. Just draw about 4 thumbnails across. Once again, what I should be doing is actually creating like a thumbnail template for in here, just so I can actually bring it in. In fact, that really should be something I do pretty much, because that way at least it's going to look nice and neat. for when I'm doing this sort of work. And so I don't know how many of these I'm going to be needing. I'm not going to be needing too many, but I'm going to be wanting to start just capturing ideas. If I was doing this for a client, I'd need to have these fairly polished because they don't have any idea of the context. But for me, this is more about just rough notes. And it's sort of almost one of these things where I don't need to, unless they're using special, like unless Zor and Flux are using special props, I don't need to really capture them in here. But one thing I do want to do is have where Flux is perhaps sort of just looking at, and I can always just chop and change this, has got like the prop he's got is a male-female card that he's holding, and then he's got his sort of screen around him. So that's pretty much with Commander Zor in the background there somewhere. So he'll be, that's how it will start. So it'll start with him trying to match different things. And I'm going to have to put in like plus videos, and I can't remember the name of the transgender people online. There's some pretty famous ones, and they really are interesting people, to be honest. Like as in like their content, and I can't remember her name. I don't know much about the issues anyway. Like I actually don't know much about it, but that's not like for me. It's just all I'm wanting to do is just do a joke about stereotypes, and so that's pretty much what this is going to end up being about. So I need him to be looking at the charts, looking at the transgender people, and getting confused. And at this stage in my head, I'm even sort of thinking, should I contact those people at this point and have them involved if they want to be or not? And I'm probably thinking not at this stage, simply because he's just doing classification, like he's just doing a classification. I don't want to insult them either, by the like so. It's not about anything other than really just creating a joke. And from what I have seen of them, they're it's just a fact of life for them. So and they're used to, I think, having different people present different things. So anyway, there's a couple of them pretty much on polar opposite sides politically that I've sort of come across. So yeah, anyway, I was thinking of just this couple of them there. So where I just want Flux really, really confused as to what's going on. Maybe I then actually even have like a report sheet. Where do I do it? Where? Yeah, so I'll just write confused. Once again, just little notes for myself. At this point, I probably will actually have then the videos. So I'll have the video of the actual people and the card show up over this side. So I'm just planning out with Flux just holding on like that. And then from here, I then need to have Flux and Zor talking. And then I need to start to go into the actual flip book itself. The actual how would I do this? Maybe it's a spiral bound book. With title, some sort of rough points, and then the actual flip book itself, and so there's got a bit of dialogue through here, and then I need to end up with some sort of sign off. So there's three parts to the joke, or to these episodes really, and it's something that, the way I've sort of been trying to do it is to get Flux to say something stupid or do something stupid at the back end here, and big unknown at this point in time. And it's, to be honest, it's not something that I tend to not need to solve this one right away. I sort of need the intro, and then I need the actual, the main content is from this point forward. And so really I don't need to do anything more than this just to get my basic idea and flow. That's sort of given me now the flow as to what's going on to this point. it sets up the scene. I then actually have we then actually have Commander Zor explain the flipbook, and then Flux then having a comment. Now this is actually very important, this one here. This is the finish, and it's very important, and I struggled with making it powerful enough. So I need to think of a way to actually make this more powerful. I need to keep on coming back to this, and what I'm finding is that I'm not nailing that end bit. Even after editing and editing and editing, I struggle at that point. Anyway, that gives me a visual clue as to what I need to do, and I find this much easier to write having that laid out like this. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to Scrivener and just start writing. So so panel is literally scene, and so in this case Flux is confused. Probably what I will do is actually zoom past most of what I do here. Flux is confused, just so that you can sort of, I'll just sort of time lapse it out. Sorry about the dogs. In fact, that's probably a good reason to time lapse this bit of that out. Flux is confused. Looking at a, oops. And has a now, even though technically I guess it would be a different shot looking at the actual other screen, I'm going to keep it in this panel as such. This is still the same feel, and I've got to think about if he would sort of say anything. Yeah, I think I will actually. I'm just going to tab it across, and now it's flipped across to character, so this is going to be Flux. Press enter and it goes into dialogue. And I've got to make this fairly conversational. Press enter, I go back to page description again. Cut to video of famous YouTube transgender people. Flipkart is next to the screen. Actually, it's not really a flipkart, is it? It's a chart. And in this case, cut back to Flux again. And so what I want to do is I want to have Flux talking a little bit and being really quite confused. Surfing looks like a female. And what I'll do here is I can split this up, but I just want to sort of capture, like I can actually have the cut occur, in the middle of this somewhere. Ultimately, when I do the edit. Okay, so cut to the video. Now we need to cut back to another transgender. See, transgender is not a word. Not according to Scrivener anyway. Now I want him to start talking. Now it's easier, two different ways to actually, unfortunately the dialogue doesn't sort of, if I press enter, it it doesn't do anything. If I do tab, it does parenthetical, but probably what I really need to be doing is making the tab go to another line of dialogue, but I haven't coded that in yet for this either. So if I press enter and then enter again, I can just pick dialogue and then have it sort of then go to the next line. And I need this for the lip syncing, so I like to split things up. So even that one probably should be split up. I'll just sort of move that across. It makes it much easier for the lip syncing. I don't know. And then I'm going to have now this is, I've got to write a joke in here, and I don't know. I'm just going to write what's being said, and then I'm going to have to come back and edit it. So Commander, what used by date on gender chart okay. So, Commander, I think the use by date on this gender chart has expired. It isn't working anymore. Okay, that's actually pretty funny for us. I think it is anyway. Now we want to so zoom to Commander Zor and then tab. So then Zor now talks. Gender chart not working. Are you using the 2016 version? In my head, I'm thinking I'm going to get this out in 2016, so that's okay. If it was really long production times, I'd probably have to be thinking, I'd probably be writing 2017, but 2016 is fine for this time of the year. I've still got a few months, so this should be finished in a week anyway. Are you using the 2016 version? Zoom back to chart and show 2000 and what should we make it? 2012 or 13 or something like that. I'll make it 12 as the date. I'm not going to bother saying flip back to Commander Zor or whatever. I'm just going to now just start getting the dialogue going. So Zor would then say something like, months. Here I can always just do start a word and then just go and press enter. I'm going to actually have to write to the makers of Scrivener. I don't like that when you press enter it disappears off what you see. I would almost like it to just keep as far down the bottom as it possibly can when you're typing down that way. It's frustrating when you're looking at it trying to sort of get the flow. Here is the new flip chart. Yeah, what did I call it? Flipbook. I'll call it a flipbook because I've called the other one a chart. The new gender flipbook. Now we go to a completely different aspect. This is all lip synced, or a lot of this has got lip syncing in it. And so what I'm just going to do here is I'm just going to go enter, panel number, enter, and just type in P, get that one started, tab, and then that's panel. And so now I'm back into panel description. Close up of flipbook. And now really it's just dialogue from Commander Zor. Now what I can do is I can just, and what I might just do is I might just go tab and then just go Zor, and then I'm just going to just start typing. You see, once again I pressed enter, it goes underneath here but doesn't actually keep up with it. It's very, very minor, but it's actually very, very frustrating as well, because I've literally got the cursor down there, but the cursor, it doesn't follow it. Anyway, that's just a thing I will actually talk to the developers of this program, because it does drive you a bit nuts. All right, so in this case, I've now got Zor needs to close up a flipbook. Zor explains the changes. And so this is going to be visually funny. So male and female are still there, as you would expect. Gender is now a continuum rather than a binary equation. I'm just thinking of anything in my head at this stage. Now it's going to go to panel description. For example, I'm just going to have a flip across. I'm just going to put in brackets. So I'm going to have to make a little animation in my head. I'm thinking I'm going to need a flipbook animation, so I'm just going to just come in and capture that. I'm just going to do a real roughie. I've sort of got this off to the side now, but I'm just going to animated. Not sure how I'll do this. I don't want us to be spending too much time making this little animation. So I've got to think how do I do that. So in my head I'm now starting to think, how do I make this flipbook animation? It's only got to go for a split second, but I've still got to do it. So it's maybe 4 frames. 3D, not sure yet. Just got to think of the quickest way to actually make that little animation. This series, simply because it's going onto YouTube and I've got to do it as fast as I possibly can, I don't want to be spending days doing this sort of stuff. I want to be, it's bang for buck really. For example, flipbook across. Yeah, I don't know the different ones. Gender male is here, etc., etc. So I'm going to have to fill this all in. Now I'm going to have to think this one through, so I'm going to have to do some research. Now I'm going to just go and press enter, and this is going to be panel number. Oops, once again, it's not going to where the cursor is, which is really frustrating, really frustrating. Panel. So back to flux using the flipbook, the new flipbook. And I need to finish this with a joke. This has to be, like, even though this is the interest part of it, I need to have a punchline here that somehow summarizes it all up. And typically I can go back and say there's no robots, or in fact I'll just put that one in for now. So this is going to be flux. For robots. Zor can say, actually, just tab that across, so Zor laterally flux, you are under don't know. I don't know what's going to be in there. I'm just going to put some question marks and just write something like Android or Android. I'll have to look it up. Anyway, tab flux. There we go. That'll do. So that sort of gives me my basic structure as to where things are sort of going with the flow of it. Now this is already going to be like a 3-minute video. I can sort of tell that. Now what I need to do next is to start going and finding the research on the different genders and then start to flesh this out. But at least what I've now got in both the storyboards, which I better just save, and in the other one is I've got the start, and I can now start to play around with the jokes. So I can, well, you know, and it's these flip books that are going to be, this is going to be a visual joke just in through here. So I'm going to need to have, as I say, a range of different things. I don't need too many of them, but I need to actually look at the list and actually go and find them. So I'm just going to go and pause this and then just going to have a quick look. And when I find the website, I'll show you. Yeah, so here's a few different things. This is LGBT, different definitions. Then we have Facebook custom gender things on a website called Slate, which has actually got, like, this is what Facebook now allows you to be. So I'm going to have to look up what some of these actually are, because I've actually got no idea. I've got no idea. Yeah, I really don't. Actually, I really don't. I know what an androgyne is because that was on Star Trek. Androgyne, I guess, is androgynous. Yeah, I don't know why that would be different. I would have thought that would be the same. Cisgender, I've got no idea what that is. Female, yeah, once again, there's a really lot of. I'm guessing that means the same as that. Not sure. Gender fluid. I really don't know. It's male to female. I've got no idea. Pangender. There's so many stuff in here. So this is one of these things where I don't need to do too many of them. You know, like it's probably, I don't even know what transgender and transsexual is, what the difference there is. I know there is a big difference, but I've got no idea myself. So I'll learn something from doing this anyway. So that's one good thing. There's another little thing over here. So this one is, this one sort of goes through some of them. Different times. Cisgender is essentially the opposite of transgender. Cis being Latin for on the side of, or versus. People who identify as cisgender are males whose gender aligns with their. So that's most of us. Whose gender aligns with their birth sex. Cisgender. God, this is going to be, it's going to be difficult but fun. You know, it's going to be a matter of putting down a whole lot of different notes in here and figuring out what to actually go with. So, yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to record this. I'm going to, wow. So it's a broad category that encompasses people who feel their gender is different than their birth sex, sometimes known as gender dysphoria. May not choose. Transsexual refers to transgender people who outwardly identify as their experienced gender rather than their birth sex. Many, but not all, transsexuals are transitioning from male to female through hormone therapy or gender reassignment surgery. Very sad, actually, isn't it? It's I feel very sorry for people that you know, it's not a choice, from what I can understand. Anyway, it's, I know that some people would say it's a choice, but I don't think it is, and it's something that is. It would be very, very difficult. So even though I'm making jokes of this, please, if you're going through that yourself, I am not trying to insult you. I really seriously do sort of think, oh, that's tricky. That's hard. And instead of reading it, I think, you know, maybe I do need to try to actually get somebody involved. I don't know how I would put it in. I think it would be too much. You know, it's probably what it is. It's probably me do this one and then approach some of them and see if they want to do like a follow-up, which I'm doing with a few of the other videos. I'm trying to get a few people involved in different follow-up videos where at least I can sort of cover a different side of it. So, yeah, anyway, it's, that's, so what I'm just going to throw down some of these definitions and probably have a bit of fun with them, I guess, and go from there. Thanks for watching.